Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw. So, to go back to your photo, which is essentially a screenshot of these two older gentlemen in their 50s and up, in front of a white kind of glass countertop. On it are very large, those are large fins, because if you imagine the size of a shark to have fins that large, so there's 7 fins of more or less decreasing size. These are probably sharks of at least, 400 kilos or whatever to a ton. They're massive sharks, and they're in a very kind of studio set of a kitchen with some nice countertops. There's the sort of the elegant tap behind. The lighting's very nice. It's obviously a studio for German pool. Let's sort of shame them a little bit. And it's like a product advertisement on a website. What is this?
So this is a great picture. I think this kind of also sums up a lot of the culture and the sort of ostrich head in the sand, or the ostrich phenomenon, as I like to call it. Just burying your head in the sand and ignoring it, what the problem really is. This is a campaign by a local company called German Pool. Has nothing to do with being German. They're local? Yes, that's the founder right there.
Oh, I always thought German Pool was German.
Nothing to do with Germany.
Those bastards.
No, they make ovens and humidifiers and
water heaters.
Water heaters,
yeah, for sure, yeah.
And they're very good at what they do. They've been around a long time. I think they have a very credible product. And they created a social media platform called Happy Kitchen.
Okay.
Happy Kitchen is where they have cooks come on and use their German Pool products to cook recipes.
Sure.
So the founder here is meeting with this gentleman who actually used to be the chairman of the MTR.
Oh.
And now he is a professor at Hong Kong U because he's retired. He's no longer the chairman as of 2019.
Right.
So these two gentlemen, he's called in his best mate, and they're going to do, which is very typical, what families, older generation, men and women in their 70s and 80s like to do, which is yum cha, to go out, eat yum cha, or have family gathering. Family is very important in our culture. So he's teaching this gentleman his best shark fin soup recipe. Yeah. So when I saw this, I was pretty shocked because at the bottom it says something to the effect of, this is how disingenuous it is, right? Don't eat shark fin soup, but it's okay to use up the stock you have first. If you have stock of shark fin soup, you can make this recipe, but don't go out and buy more of it, kind of thing. It was like almost a throwaway kind of like plea to, okay, we're sustainable. But I think the message is from a corporate social responsibility, or the message should be from a CSR, a corporate social responsibility standpoint. The message really should be absolutely, this is what you don't want to do.
Exactly.
Right? You are contributing to the unsustainability and the overfishing of the oceans, which has a direct impact, we know, on climate change.
And you're promoting it.
Correct. So it's great that you asked me, that we've talked about this photo today, because in fact today we are launching a petition on Support Hong Kong, supporthk.org, which is a charity right here in this office in Hong Kong, and we are launching a petition asking German Pool to remove this video. And so, watch this space.
Yeah. Okay, so around our podcast, I'm going to link to Hong Kong Shark Foundation's website. I'll put other links as well, as far as whatever you feel is useful. Okay, so let's go back to part of what's interwoven in Shooting It Raw is this idea that how can we inspire people to kind of step back from everyday life and push things forward a little bit, either for the greater good, issues that are bigger than yourself, however it is. So very inspirational. Okay, so listening to your language, I had mentioned this earlier, listening to your language, you have very clear professional services type language, in the sense that I know that you worked in a law firm. Somebody listening to you who has a different mindset, first of all, doesn't have the experience that you have or the training, how did you go from there to here? Is there is it a big jump, or was it actually just a natural progression?
In 2019, I was privileged to be asked to do a TED Talk at Chinese University, a TEDx talk. And that really helped me to fine-tune my message. And I had to really think about, how did I get in this, right? Mm-hmm. What would be interesting to people? And my message, as I explained in that TEDx talk, right, is in 2015, I had been working as a legal recruiter. I had worked for a Wall Street firm that, I know, that's how I know you. Mm-hmm. I was an ex-lawyer in corporate communications. And I sort of had an epiphany. My father had died. My mother had a heart attack. And I sort of reached that age that women get to when they start questioning what's the reason for life. And I sort of, what's my existence? Have I done enough? What's the legacy we're leaving? And it just sort of came on. I was working with a lot of very rich clients who were making a lot of money, and they were not happy, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. There has to be more to it than that. Mm-hmm. And so I just decided to start volunteering. So in 2015, I started volunteering for different charities in town, Christian Zoo and the Ark on Lantau. And Jenny does an amazing job out there. And then I knew Jerry McLean, and Jerry was one of the founders, right? And I had seen his talk at the Royal Hong Kong Yacht Club. And there I was sitting, and I thought, well, I'm a fairly educated person, right? I've worked in an educated population, and then I get there and I see this, presentation with photos like I've showed you today, and I thought, wow, how did I not make that connection between the two? How is it I was, eating shark fin soup at weddings and not pushing back and saying, everybody, we have to stop this, right? And I didn't realize the actual decimation of that overfishing was doing to the shark population. Sure. And how 1/3 of the species is near extinction. Mm-hmm. How, as David Attenborough says in One Planet, his show, he says 90%, we have lost 90% of the shark population in 30 years. Right. And that's what Rob Stewart was trying to do in his shark water extinction movies, until we lost him, unfortunately, in January 2017. Mm-hmm. And so I had this sort of epiphany, and I quit my job. And I volunteered different jobs off and on for 3 years without pay. And then, in charities, because we don't have big institutions, or we receive zero government funding and very little, if nothing, over the years from other foundations, we're all dependent on people like you and your listeners for keeping us alive. And we literally run on a volunteer air. Volunteers are the lifeblood. I'm the only employee right now for the Shark Foundation. Yeah. And, I 2 years ago, I became the executive director. And my mission is really now to educate not just students, but to start campaigns like our Shark Free Company campaign, which is a corporate social responsibility campaign, where we just signed up another company yesterday called Legal Beagle, which is a CPD company, where we're trying to get more corporate people into the green mind that they can make a difference. You don't have to quit your job like I did and really jump in, but people can be passionate in different ways. They can sign petitions, they can take pledges within themselves, but they can spread the pledge around. They could have they could have birthday parties and donate money. Sure. They could have corporate company parties, annual dinners. They could choose a charity. I can come and be a speaker. So if they want to give back and save sharks, they not only can be a part of the actual activism of voicing and not eating it, right? But they can also be a part by donating to ensure that we continue. The fuel, yeah. Yeah, the absolutely great word. That those donations are the fuel to keep us going. Right. And this year, I have to say, 2019 and 2020 have been incredibly difficult for charities, especially in Hong Kong. So we started in June of 2019 with the protests, and then we started with, December and January of 2020, we started with the COVID-19. And people are concerned about their jobs and their health and their families. So donating to sort of a very, what some might see as an obscure charity, because they don't see the cause and effect between they don't think sharks are important. But what they don't realize is that they are the cleaners and sort of the keepers of the ocean. And without those apex predators, we will have shark populations that are disappearing, but they also maintain a healthy marine ecosystem.
Yeah.
And we get 50% of our water and 50% of our air from the ocean. And they keep those oceans clean. Without sharks, we will have catastrophic effects. We need to take action now.
What is a really bad day for you in terms of, as an activist, when you come in and you're just like, oh man, are you kidding me?
Well, I think as an activist, a really bad day is when I see people not cooperating together to save sharks and save the planet.
Right. Okay. I hear you. So what day, if you're to look back in the past, say, 4 years, is the flagpole that goes so high in terms of what an achievement, your heart's bursting in your chest?
When I go to a school, right, and I plant that seed and that message, and then I see young people like having birthday parties through organizations like Two Presents. I don't know if you know that. Right. It's called Two Presents, and they're an invitation platform. They're really in the schools. When kids decide for their birthday, they want to give some of their birthday money to a charity.
Sweet. Nice.
And in fact, today, when we finish, there's a child coming in here who did exactly that. And then she will come in and we'll talk about the presentation that she saw I give at her school, and we'll thank her. We'll take a little photo.
Nice.
And with her parents' permission, we'll put that on social media, and we'll call her our shark hero.
Nice.
And we give her a little certificate. And she's a shark hero. A great day, and what keeps me going is when I see, kids like that, because they get it, they understand it, and they go a little bit further. They want to even give their money, because the reality is we're a business, and we still have to revenue generate somehow.
Sure.
We don't have much to sell except for education, right, and changing habits, and so that is a bad day too.
Yeah.
When because we go through ups and downs in a charity, and that's why we constantly have leadership succession problems. Because when a leader leaves a small charity like ours, they leave with everything.
Exactly.
And everybody starts from zero.
Exactly.
And not many people want to do that. We just got we just got involved in an organization called Benevity. Benevity is like a vetting company for charities, for corporates.
Okay.
And Moody's, one of Moody's employees in Hong Kong, was kind enough to give us a donation. And then Moody's matched it. But we weren't on their list of corporate approved charities.
Right.
So we went through months and months of getting approved. It's an organization out of the US called Benevity.
Okay.
And we became approved. We're probably the smallest charity on there with some of the biggest impact, right, of what we do. And so that just got confirmed today.
Wow.
And I'm really excited. It wasn't, a huge amount of money, right?
Little wins. But
over 1,000 Hong Kong dollars, you can get a tax deductible receipt. That's not so big for people in Hong Kong. For people like in the U.S. who pay a lot of taxes, right, or Australia, or Canada, in the U.K., tax deductible receipts are helpful. So that's really, that helps a lot. And we just got a donation from the Royal Hong Kong Yacht Club. And these are not huge donations, but I have to say the Royal Hong Kong Yacht Club is probably one of our best supporters for the last 2 years. And they give us a donation every year, and they're not a huge fundraiser, but it's just that kindness that will keep us going for another month, kind of thing.
So one thing that I realized was that if you can make a difference here, it'll have, because of the its importance in the supply chain, in terms of consumption, in terms of all that stuff, make a difference here, it'll have an impact.
Absolutely. May I give you an example of that
impact? Yeah.
So there's a 16-year-old girl who goes to private boarding school in New York City. She happened to see our Instagram account, because we're on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Weibo, right? She saw our Instagram account, And she went, wow, I want to help those guys. And she reached out to me and she said, hey, I want to help you. I'm a 16-year-old girl. You know, I'm good at social media. What can I do? And we've been working now. Her name's Catherine. She's unbelievable. And you know what? She started something called redbubble.com is an organization in the US where you can take your brand and put it on any product, right? A mug, an apron, a hat, a mask. And she put it on 15, 16 products. And she's been selling our brand in the US.
Wow.
No one in the Hong Kong. They're all in the US. I think it's because the shipping is kind of prohibitive, right? So I've got all these fans now buying Hong Kong Shark Foundation products in the US. So that is an example of the global impact that small things can be done.
That brings up something really interesting, that sometimes it feels like you're pushing a rock up a hill and it's super heavy and it's like really frustrating, and your effort is all channeled in that direction, and then somebody pipes up from the side, little voice, hello, I can help. And you're like, what? Who? And then you're like, I'll make these. Sure, yeah. And then all of a sudden, it's magic. You're just like, wow.
Keeps me going.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It keeps me going. And really, the kids are, they just get it, right? And knowing that the kids understand the gravity of this problem and that they can do little things and be part of those agents of change. Yeah, that keeps me going every day.
I always find, like, you know, the whole thing of the kids, I think what it is just simply they're not anchored to some kind of legacy. Somebody who's 15 now, who's 20 now, their coming of age or their awareness is into this conversation, this awareness, global awareness, where more people are talking about, environmental protection, the issue of oceans, whereas they're not held back by older generations who have this legacy of, oh, we always did this, we've always done this, it's fine, you know. And so a bit of optimism. How do you offer a ray of sunshine to a kid who's like, oh, it looks really bleak, it looks awful, 250 or whatever the number you gave, million sharks still, the number's too big. Like it's almost meaningless, But so, what kind of ray of sunshine can you give these young minds? There is room for optimism.
I guess the word I would use is empowerment.
Okay.
Educating young people that they have the ability and the power within them, that they are empowered to make change, is very, very important in a culture, in any society. Because if they're not happy with the way it's going, right, they can make change, just little things, and it will make a difference. And understanding, like Greta Thunberg, that just one person has a knock-on effect, right, has a reaction down the line, and that they're not powerless, that they in fact can be empowered, and they can work together. Because, as I said, together, they're stronger together, right? And so we have a saying that when the buying stops, the killing stops too. And in Mandarin, we say, 中文我们说, 没有买卖就没有杀害. When the buying stops, then the killing stops too, right? So if they understand that by just stopping the buying has a direct effect on the killing, it just, it really sums up what we're trying to do here. We can do it together, whether it's other NGOs. And I don't rely on that. I rely on just basically the hearts and minds of people making little difference through organizations, like I said, Two Presents, or becoming a shark-free company, or having a shark-free wedding. Right.
Yeah, so you've come also from the more corporate side, and you mentioned the CSR model, or say framework within a company, an organization, right? So somebody from the outside, they can come in and they say, okay, can you fold this into your CSR activities or CSR program? Do you feel that at this point, companies are still very much hinged on a clear CSR, the benefit of clear CSR activities? Or do you feel that it was a bit of a fashion, that it kind of came and went?
I think it's actually a bit of both. I think it was a fashion, and I think people are still working on it. it can be a red herring where they just want to flag it up and get credit for it, right? But I do, I definitely think it's super important right now. A lot of companies are really into these SDGs.
What's that?
Sustainable Development Goal.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
They want to have SDGs, and a lot of them are government approved. And the United Nations has 17 SDGs. Okay. And one of them, number 14, is life below water.
Oh, okay.
And so that's what we're trying to help companies who want to tick that number 14 or get an SDG, for their corporate social responsibility policy. We can help them to meet that need. And, green is still something that's very new for a lot of companies. The basic 4 food groups of charities are children, giving money being given to children, elderly, poverty, and disabled or ill. And so we don't fall within that.
Yeah.
Even our own Operation Santa Claus, when you apply to receive money from it, it says very clearly at the bottom of the application, no religious or animal rights organizations may apply.
Right.
So we need to change that. And, they may have changed that within the last couple of years since I saw that, but I don't think so.
Right.
But we need to change that mindset, because the way I see it is, how you're on a plane and they say, well, if the oxygen mask drops down, put it on you first and then cover your child.
Yeah.
I believe the green factor, the oceans, the climate change, the sharks, I believe these factors are the umbrella, which are over the children, the poverty, the elderly. Because if we don't have clean water, if we don't have clean air, if we don't have a healthy environment, right? If we're eating sharks with heavy metal in them, like heavy metals like arsenic, mercury, lead, right? And that's just not in sharks, by the way. Pretty much all fish has that. We need to stop eating. So, that big picture is the atmosphere, is the environment, the green issue, which protects all those at the bottom.
I agree 100%.
So corporates, so back to your question on, are they just,
window dressing?
Yes, window dressing, exactly. It's just window dressing, are they just talking the talk? I think corporates want to do, like the big investment banks that want to do something to not only be seen as giving back, but actually doing something for the bigger picture, right? The climate, and do something green. But it's hard for them. It's a bit of a Leviathan. It's like you're in a big, huge Carnival Cruises boat and you want to turn left. You have to start now, right? It takes, versus if you're in a speedboat, you turn, you automatically can turn. We can turn, So I know that it's difficult for them, but if they take a chance on sharks, they're not just doing sharks. They're not just saving sharks. They're saving the oceans.
It's the whole oceans, absolutely.
Because the problem is overfishing, right? Sharks are the bycatch and they're being overfished. And so we can't just say, well, these only 10, really only 10 species are protected under the United Nations CITES law, right? There are 2 new that have been added.
Right.
But there are basic 10 sharks, right? Great whites, basking, whale shark, there are others. But we need to be saving all the sharks.
Sure. Is it, it's 300 species, right?
Over 450.
Okay, 450.
I hear different numbers all the time. So over 400, over 500, I like to go in the middle. Right. So, again, we don't know, because every day, if you're a marine biologist and you're out swimming, you might find a new species. So, it takes time. But the point is that there's a lot of species, over 450, and only 10. That's why we as citizens of the earth have to take action and do it ourselves. We can no longer wait.
Well, so waiting for the government to be proactive, it doesn't happen. They're usually the one to come last to the party, and then they give the stamp of approval, and then they say, okay, now it's
Safe,
done. Now
or
it's
they
policy.
rely on NGOs to do their job.
Okay.
And that's really typical, especially in Hong Kong.
Okay.
Where, in a place like Canada or the US, you have the governments, they allocate money to give to endowments, to give to charities and foundations. But here, the money is only goes to those 4 groups. Right. So the green, the environment, the water, all these other kind of environmentally related initiatives, it includes animals, they really are on their own when it comes to fundraising.
I am eating this up. So far on the podcast, I've had other conservationists as well. I love how each person's voice is unique and the energy is different. I mentioned Po Chung before in the conversation,
Yep.
right? So I've been working with Po a long time. And part of what we say is that who you are informs the service you give, right? So who you are as a human being, Andrea, is really, like, you're in a way the brand of Hong Kong Shark Foundation. And I love that identity is very articulate, intellectually forceful. You're not a wimp, but extremely caring. And I find that really inspiring. I would love for somebody to hear this who's not in Hong Kong to say, I'm going to get involved, even though I'm in New York or I'm in South Africa or whatever, and create bridges because...
Absolutely. Those bridges. Well, first, your words are very kind. And I know I'm preaching to the choir a little bit with you because you were very instrumental. You know, you did your sharks rescue before, and I know you did some great activism by wearing. We have shark suits.
Sure,
Anybody
sure.
ever wants to wear a shark suit and walk around, and raise awareness. But our motto, our mission is 5 words: to raise awareness about shark conservation and educate people about not eating shark fin soup and other shark products.
Right.
So, as I said, if we can show people it's easy to be empowered, people, your listeners, they may think, oh, it's okay, to eat a little bit of shark or whatever. But I think we all have to do our part, whether it's reusing and reducing or whether, we're trying something to be more greener. Every little bit helps.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just, usually it's a choice. You can go left or right.
Absolutely.
Why not go the right direction?
Correct. There's a great quote by the lady who actually was an advocate in the Florida Everglades.
Okay.
She's the reason why it pushed it. And she said, paraphrasing what she said was, you have to be a nuisance. You can't, you just, if you want to get something done, you just can't sit back and think it's going to happen. And maybe at least if I'm not involved in the Shark Foundation and it disappears, right? At least I'll know I did a little bit, right? I can leave this planet knowing I tried to give back.
A fantastic nuisance.
Yeah.
Let's end on that note.
Yeah.
Thank you
great.
so much.
Thank you so
Okay.
much. Thanks.
Elbow
Very
vibe.
kind. Yeah.
I love it.
Thanks.
You.
Great. Thanks very much.
So good.
Really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
So is life really a gift? Really? Can you make every second count? That's the whole point of the podcast. So if you like what you've seen and you're inspired, because that really is my mission, then please give it a like, subscribe, and share.
Shooting it raw?
Yes, shooting it raw.